Nuton and Lola rescue the magical alphabet fairy. Good evening, gentle dreamer. Are your fingers curled under your pillow? Is your blanket tucked right beneath your chin? Then shh. Take a deep breath. Because tonight's story floats on stardust, spins on scrolls, and sings of a fairy who once gave every child their very first letter. But lately, she's been silent. Now close your eyes and listen with your heart, because Nuton and Lola are about to begin a most magical rescue. In Hudson Valley, the moon was a big scoop of vanilla floating in the sky. Inside their cozy room, Nuton was bouncing on the bed with a sock tied around his head like a knight's bandana. "Tomorrow is spelling day," Lola reminded, sitting cross-legged with her workbook open. "You haven't even opened your notebook." "I'm gonna be a knight," Nuton declared. "Knights don't spell, they yell." He drew a swoosh in the air. Lola rolled her eyes. Even knights need to read dragon signs, or the trapdoor signs. "Blah," Nuton said, sticking out his tongue. Above them, Wuity twirled slowly in the air, sprinkling sleepy sparkles like bedtime glitter. After a warm bath and fuzzy pajamas, Mama tucked them into bed. The lamp dimmed. Wuity's soft glow painted stars on the ceiling. "Tell us a story," Nuton murmured. "One with dragons." "And maybe homework," Lola added, half smiling. Mama opened an old book with a golden ribbon bookmark. "This one," she said, "is about the alphabet fairy." Nuton blinked. "Is she sparkly?" "She used to be," Mama said softly. "But something happened." "She's real, you know," Mama added. "They say every child gets their very first letter from her. When you were babies, she danced beside your cribs and whispered one letter into your dreams. For you, Nuton, she gave the letter N." Nuton's eyes widened. "No way!" "She shaped it from moonlight," Mama nodded. "N for noticing, N for noble, N for Nuton." "But now," Mama said sadly, "she can't sing anymore. She's been trapped." Lola leaned forward. "By who?" "A wicked sorcerer named Lorzar," Mama whispered. "He hated studying. He hated letters and reading and anything that reminded him he wasn't the smartest in class. So he did the unthinkable. He built a cage of silence and locked the alphabet fairy inside. And when she stopped singing, the letters of the world began to vanish." Nuton sat up. "Like A, B, C?" "All gone," Mama whispered. "Books turned blank, signs faded, even dreams. lost their names. Wuity hovered lower, its glow dimming like a bedtime candle. But legend says, Mama continued, 2 brave children once heard her silence and decided to follow it. Nuton grinned. I bet one of them had a wooden sword. Lola smiled, and the other had a glowing spell book. Mama kissed their foreheads. You'll just have to see. She closed the book. The room quieted, and the silence wasn't scary. It was waiting for a dream to begin. Nuton opened his eyes slowly, but it wasn't their bedroom anymore. He was lying on a floating bed of scrolls, gliding over a misty courtyard. A silky silver cape hung from his shoulders. At his side, a wooden sword with the letter N carved into the hilt. But the N was fading, like a word being erased. Lola stood nearby in a long violet cloak, shimmering with tiny blinking stars. A small spell book hovered beside her, glowing faintly. Wuity fluttered above them wearing a thimble for a helmet. They landed softly in the courtyard of a strange town. Shops stood crooked, flags hung still, and every sign had missing letters. Akari, Ibrary. Even the sky looked puzzled, a soft blue missing its morning poem. Something's wrong, Lola whispered. This kingdom has lost its voice. They wandered slowly. Once, this place had been called Everling, known far and wide for music, scrolls, and sky songs. Now it whispered only with wind. A sign by a fountain showed 3 pictures: a bee, a flower, and a wand. No words, just symbols. Nuton stared at a fruit basket outside a market. It read only question mark, question mark, question mark. What is this? He asked. Peaches, pumpkins. The shopkeeper looked sad. We used to know, but the words won't come anymore. Lola tried to say library, but her voice cracked halfway through, like it couldn't remember the shape of the word. Even the birds were silent. Even the trees didn't rustle in rhyme. It's like the world forgot how to speak, Lola murmured. Wuity floated in slow, quiet circles. Its trail of sparkles drooped downward like a question mark made of sighs. At the edge of the kingdom stood the castle. Its gates were shut, but a soft light glowed beneath the cracks. There they met an old scribe named Mosswick, whose beard looked like it had fallen asleep in an ink pot. He squinted at them, then smiled slowly. You're the ones from the whisper dream. Nuton puffed his chest. The Knight of N. Lola raised her hand, and the Wizard of W. Moswick opened a scroll thicker than a cake. It was filled with stories, but most were missing letters. Whole paragraphs faded to blankness. The alphabet fairy, he said sadly, was the keeper of letters, the guardian of every story, song, and name. But Lorzar, he growled softly, wanted silence. He trapped her inside a cage of forgetting, hidden in the Tower of Tangles. And when she could no longer sing the letters, they left. Nuton's hands clenched. She gave me the letter N, he whispered. I don't want to forget her. Moswick's eyes twinkled. Then you must find her. But beware, only those who remember why words matter can set her free. They walked through fields of nameless flowers, past bakeries with blank menus. Children sat at stone schools, holding slates with nothing written. One little girl tugged on Nuton's cloak. I don't remember my dog's name anymore, she said softly. So I just call him Bark Bark. Nuton gave a crooked smile. That's a good name. But his eyes were wet. Even the sky felt lighter, like it was missing its own name. Lola looked up. No constellations, she whispered. Just dots. They don't know what they're supposed to be. Wuity hovered above them, blinking a soft SOS in sparkles. Time was running out. The longer the fairy stayed trapped, the more the world unraveled. We have to go, Nuton said. Now! Moswick returned holding a glowing scroll. This, he said, is the map of remembering. It leads to the Tower of Tangles, where the alphabet fairy sleeps beneath 3 locks. But each step will test you, he warned. Not with swords, but with heart. Because only those who still believe in words can find her voice. Nuton looked nervous. I still don't like spelling, he mumbled. But you love names, Lola said gently. You love your letter. Nuton nodded. Okay, let's go. Lola reached for his hand. Wuity zipped ahead, drawing a glowing A in the air. It sparkled and pointed the way, and so began their journey. Not just to find letters, but to rescue the one who gave them meaning. Moswick's scroll shimmered and began to glow. As Nuton and Lola stepped into the forest of Scribblewood, the path beneath them unraveled. Like a ribbon of soft parchment lined with drifting letters. Wuity zipped ahead and tapped the scroll. It flipped itself into 3 glowing icons. A musical note, a silver lock, a feathered key. The alphabet fairy's voice was bound by 3 locks, whispered Lola. Each lock tied to a part of her song, the name, the word, and the dream. Nuton stared at the path. So, we break the locks, she sings again. Wuity nodded and drew a soft swirl of sparkles in the air. Let's go. In a glade of whispering trees stood one enormous trunk, older than the hills. Its bark was covered in carved names, but many had faded into dashes and smudges. One mossy eye opened in the bark. The tree of forgotten names yawned. "To pass," it groaned, "you must name those you love, or forget them forever." Nuton's stomach flipped. M-O-M? The tree didn't move. Lola whispered, "Nuton, it has to come from your heart, not just your head." Nuton gulped. He stared at the bark. Then he reached out with his finger and wrote, L-O-L-A, Lola. W-U-I-T-Y, Wuity. M-O-M, Mom. Each time, the name glowed and blossomed into a small petal of golden light. Then Nuton paused. His voice dropped. And D-A-D, like Dad. A soft breeze brushed the clearing. The tree rumbled gently. "You remember with love, so you may pass." A lock in the air cracked open with a chime. Wuity spun in a circle, leaving behind a golden syllable. The first piece of Alphabet Fairy's voice had returned. Through a winding cavern, they arrived at a round stone room. Its walls rippled like puddles. In the center, floating puzzle pieces shaped like letters. A voice echoed around them. To rebuild what's been broken, you must form words that come from who you are. Lola stepped forward. She picked C, A, T, cat. A soft purr sounded. A tiny image of a cat appeared and curled into a ball. Nuton tried S-I-L-L-Y. "Silly like you, Nuton," Lola smiled. A bouncing blob leapt into the air, giggling and doing flips. They giggled, then got to work. Together they made H-O-M-E, home. A little hut appeared with a lantern glowing inside. H-E-A-R-T, heart. A pulse of golden light rang through the room. F-A-I-R-Y, fairy. And the letters shimmered with a sound like a bell chime. Wuity nudged a Z into the air. It spun and popped into a star-shaped pillow. The room began to sing. Letters circled the walls, reassembling the alphabet's hum. Another lock clicked open. A new syllable joined the first. B. The fairy's second tone had returned. The final chamber was small and round. Inside, the walls were mirrors made of soft smoke. There was no sound. Only one message appeared in flickering letters. Speak aloud the truest word inside you. Nuton gulped. What if I don't know? Lola stared into the mist, then softly said, Brave. The word drifted out like a dandelion seed. A mirror shimmered. A new star appeared. Nuton looked down, thought, whispered, change. His word glowed deep orange. The mirror glowed warmer. Wuity floated forward and tapped its own reflection. It blinked twice. Sparkle. The word bloomed in tiny bursts of gold. The room filled with warmth. The final lock lifted. The third and final syllable returned. Together, the syllables rose into the air. The three notes wove themselves into a name, a melody that circled the walls like wind through a flute. Alphabet. Far above them, a cage of silence shattered like glass kissed by song. The alphabet fairy was beginning to remember how to sing. Above the forest and beyond the trials rose a twisting tower made of knotted branches and broken quills. Its windows were fogged. Its stairs circled like spirals of silence. Nuton and Lola stood at the base, wind fluttering their capes. Wuity hovered above, drawing gentle letters in the air. A, B, C. I can hear her, Lola whispered. Just barely, Nuton added. It's like a song waiting to finish. They climbed the staircase, each step echoing like a missing beat. At the top, a grand wooden door. No lock, no handle, just silence. Wuity spun forward, and the three syllables from before gathered in a swirl. They brushed the door. It breathed open. Inside was a crystal cage glowing dully in the center of a circular chamber. Floating within, the alphabet fairy, suspended mid-spin. She looked like a note held too long, paused in time. Her wings were folded, dusty and dim. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Lorzar stood beside the cage, tall, cloaked in shadowed scrolls. His eyes were not angry, they were hollow, like someone who had once loved learning and lost it. So, he said, you brought the last three notes. Nuton stepped forward. Let her go. I can't, Lorzar replied, because once she sings, I'll remember everything. His voice cracked. I failed. I couldn't read fast enough, couldn't spell like the others. So I told myself, if words hurt me, I would take them from the world. Lola's eyes softened. It's not words that hurt. It's silence that leaves us alone. Nuton clenched his fist. She gave me in, not for nothing, for noticing, for new, for Nuton. He turned to the fairy. Let us give your song back. Together, Lola, Nuton, and Wuity stood before the cage. They raised their voices softly. The notes curled into the air, weaving like ribbon, threading through the cage. The crystal cracked. Light leaked out. The alphabet fairy blinked. Her voice, once stolen, now returned like a sunrise. She sang. No words, just sound, pure, whole, full of every letter ever spoken or yet to be written. The cage shattered. The air filled with glowing runes and stars that danced. Wuity burst into glowing bubbles. Nuton and Lola were lifted slightly from the ground. Even Lorzar blinked. A single letter L glowed faintly on his robe. The alphabet fairy floated above them, wings wide like calligraphy made of stardust. She sang the first full word, light. Letters zipped back into the world. Signs reformed their words. Books opened with dancing fonts. Children in schools looked at chalkboards and smiled. Even the birds began to chirp again, as if writing songs into the air. She hovered to Nuton. You remembered. You spoke when silence seemed safer. To Lola, you heard the shape of meaning inside stillness. She turned to Lorzar. Her voice was not angry, just steady. Words are not meant to be perfect, only shared. Lorzar looked down. His hands glowed faintly. I remember my name, he whispered. Before I hated letters, it was Leo. The fairy smiled. That's a good name to begin again. She lifted her hands and 3 letters flew into the air. C for curiosity, to Nuton. For wisdom, to Lola. L for listening, to Lorzar. Wuity twirled, catching a floating S for sparkle. Each letter hummed, tucked itself into their hearts, and glowed gently. The alphabet fairy sang once more, and the tower, once twisted and tangled, straightened like a line of perfect poetry, then gently folded into mist. The wind whispered again. The words had returned, and so had the wonder. The Tower of Tangles had vanished like mist caught by morning. In its place stood only a single feather, glowing gently. Nuton and Lola stood side by side. Wuity circled them slowly, then tucked himself into Nuton's hood with a soft plop. Above, the sky hummed. not with silence, but with syllables and stars. A soft voice, the alphabet fairies, echoed from far away. You've returned the melody of meaning. Now go and listen to the world again. And so, with a gentle blink of starlight, they were home, in their room, on their beds, just as the clock whispered midnight. Lola blinked first. On her pillow sat her little notebook, its cover now glowing faintly. She opened it. Inside, instead of blank pages, were her own handwriting, her stories, her dreams. The letters had come back. Nuton reached for his plush toy. Its tag read, "To Nuton, Knight of N, braver than a boulder, kinder than a cloud." He smiled sleepily. "My name has a heartbeat again." He turned to Lola. "Hey, W's a weird letter." Lola yawned. "But it's wise." "Wuity gets the best one," Nuton whispered. "S for sparkle." Wuity wiggled sleepily in response, his body glowing like a soft lamp. The moon beamed through the window. Outside, the wind rustled the trees in phrases. "Sleep well, sleep well. All is spelled and safe again." Mom peeked in through the bedroom door, smiling softly. She tiptoed in and kissed Lola's forehead, then Nuton's. "You did it," she whispered. "I knew you'd listen when the world got quiet." She placed a little paper note on the nightstand. A single glowing letter was written on it. "Why?" Nuton squinted. "Why?" Lola whispered, barely awake. "Maybe for you, or yes, or yet. The best words always leave room for more." Nuton closed his eyes, hugging his letter close. Letters weren't boring anymore. They were little spells, ways to say, "I'm here, I see you, I remember." Outside, a soft breeze picked up a piece of starlight and shaped it into a swirl. The last of the fairy song, gently circling the house. And from the sky, faint and sweet, came the voice of the alphabet fairy. Deeply soft voice. Good night, Nuton. Good night, Lola. May your dreams be full of wonder, and every word you will one day write. Bedtime Stories with Nuton and Lola. Good evening, little explorer. Are you tucked in tight? Because tonight, Nuton, Lola, and Wuity are about to drift into an ocean of dreams, where stars swim and whales shimmer like rainbows. In the warm kitchen of their Hudson Valley home, the smell of banana muffins filled the air. Outside, the trees swayed under a sleepy golden sunset. Nuton sat at the table, kicking his little feet under his chair, his tongue poking out of the corner of his mouth. He was scribbling a drawing, a submarine shaped like a giant donut, with sprinkles. Lola sat across from him, calmly gluing seashells to a poster for her school project. Meanwhile, Wuity floated above, wearing a toy sailor's hat tilted crookedly on his starry head. "Nuton," Lola said, peeking at his drawing, "this is supposed to be your project for Oceans of Imagination. Where's the real ocean?" "It's an imaginary ocean," Nuton protested, waving his crayon. "And my donut submarine can find treasure." Wuity did a loop-de-loop in agreement, his hat spinning like a top. "But the assignment," Lola said patiently, "is to bring back something real, like a sea plant or a shell or a story." Nuton dropped his crayon dramatically. "I don't want a boring shell. I want a real ocean adventure." Wuity sparkled a little brighter. And just like that, ding, an idea bloomed. Later that evening, while exploring the attic for something oceany, Wuity floated past an old wooden chest tucked beneath a quilt. As Wuity brushed it with a star hand, the chest gave a little click. Inside, an old, crinkly map with silver threads woven through it, showing oceans, currents, and a mysterious symbol glowing faintly like a star. A tattered book titled "Tales from the Deep, Myths of the Sea." Nuton gasped, "Treasure." He flipped to the last page, and there it was, a faded painting of a boy riding a gigantic whale across a glittering, star-filled sea. The boy had bright wooden joints and the tiniest little nose. "That's Pinocchio!" Nuton squeaked. Lola peered over his shoulder. "It's probably just a story." Nuton's eyes gleamed. "Or maybe an invitation." The map in his lap shimmered suddenly, a little pulse of silver light zipping across the paper like a wink. The three of them stared at each other. Wuity twirled in excited circles, and Nuton grinned so wide it nearly split his face. "Let's go find it." Downstairs in the garden shed, Wuity bobbed in the air, concentrating very, very hard. Poof! With a pop of sparkle, Wuity transformed into a miniature submarine. Round and shiny, shaped like a squishy teardrop with blinking lights and bubble windows. Nuton clapped. "It's perfect!" Lola, holding a backpack full of snacks, muttered, "I hope it's waterproof." With a joyful squeak, Wuity opened a hatch. They climbed inside, snuggled among the cozy cushions, and Nuton carefully unfolded the silver-threaded map. The oceans glowed softly. The submarine floated up through the greenhouse roof, through the evening mist, into the dreamy velvet night, and down, down, down into the real ocean, where adventure waited just beyond the horizon. At first, everything was peaceful. Fish glittered past. Coral gardens swayed. The whole world was a sleepy symphony of blues and greens. Then, Wuity's dashboard blinked. Whirl. A tiny whirlpool formed ahead, no bigger than a dinner plate. But it sparkled. Purple, pink, silver, gold. It shimmered like a dream melting into a sunrise. "It's beautiful," Lola whispered. Nuton leaned closer. "It's a portal. I know it." The whirlpool grew, twisting, twinkling, humming a sound like a lullaby sung by the stars. Without thinking, without fear, Nuton nudged the steering lever forward, and together, Wuity, Lola, and Nuton zoomed toward the sparkling swirl. The submarine spun once, twice. The colors folded around them like warm velvet. And then, pop, they were gone. Gone into the current of a story that hadn't been told yet. The moment they tumbled through the sparkling whirlpool, everything changed. The little submarine floated into a breathtaking underwater realm. Golden light filtered down in glittery beams, turning the ocean into a rippling wonderland. All around them, towering mushroom forests stretched toward the surface. Each mushroom cap glowed with soft, magical colors. Blue like morning, purple like twilight, pink like the inside of a shell. Tiny fish, their scales flashing every color of the rainbow, darted between the glowing stems. In the distance, mountains of shimmering crystals rose from the seafloor, catching the light and throwing it in 1,000 dancing directions. "Whoa," Nuton breathed, pressing his nose against the glass. Wuity spun slowly in the cockpit, blinking dreamily at the colors. Even Lola, who usually kept her cool, whispered, "It's like a dream underwater." Outside, gentle creatures floated by, giant butterfly turtles with silver fins and cloud-like puffish that drifted lazily past fields of swaying sea flowers. Nuton practically buzzed with excitement. "We have to explore! There's gotta be treasure here!" Lola chuckled. "Or seaweed in your hair." Nuton made a silly face. Wuity beamed, and with a soft whir, the little submarine opened a hatch. Tiny bubbles floated in, tickling their noses. It was time to dive into the kingdom. They climbed out into the glowing water, where the magic let them breathe as easily as if they were walking through air. Wuity, ever helpful, turned into a little floaty globe that hovered over their heads, shining a soft guide light. Nearby, a moonlight turtle paddled by, its shell glowing like a full moon. Nuton waved his arms wildly. "Wait, maybe we can ride it." Before Lola could say anything, Nuton had already swum over and gently climbed onto the turtle's back. The turtle gave a sleepy blink, then slowly turned, carrying Nuton, Lola, and Wuity deeper into the mushroom forest. As they rode, tiny bubble cities floated above the coral hills. The bubbles shimmered in soft blues and silvers, and inside, teeny luminescent creatures waved hello. Nuton waved back with both hands, nearly slipping off the turtle. "Nuton, hold on!" Lola called, laughing. Deeper they floated, through curtains of sparkling sea flowers that sang soft, chiming melodies when the current brushed them. Everywhere, it felt like the ocean was whispering. Magic lives where kindness swims. Just when Nuton leaned back with a sigh, thinking nothing could be more beautiful, Wuity blinked rapidly. The water around them trembled gently. Far, far ahead, something huge stirred. At first, it looked like a drifting island. Then, it moved. A great, round shape gliding through the water with the slow, majestic grace of a dream. The creature's skin shimmered dark navy, deep as night, and scattered across it were sparkling stars, little galaxies turning slowly. A whale, but not just any whale. A starry sky whale. Its giant fins swept wide like wings. Its eyes glowed like moons. And it was swimming right toward them. "Is it friendly?" Nuton squeaked. The whale opened its great mouth. Not roaring, not angry, but like a yawn, wide and peaceful, except the suction pulled at them like a strong, warm breeze. "We're gonna get swallowed," Nuton squealed, grabbing onto Lola. Lola grabbed onto Wuity, and Wuity blinked and quickly spun into a plastic bubble, wrapping them all inside a soft, cushiony sphere. The whale's pull grew stronger. Inside their bubble, they tumbled and spun, until with a whoosh, they passed through the whale's glowing lips and into a whole new world inside. At first, everything was velvet darkness. Then, one by one, tiny stars inside the whale blinked on. pink stars, gold stars, green and blue and lilac stars. They formed moving pictures in the dark. One looked like a giant sea flower dancing. One looked like a school of laughing dolphins. One even looked like Wuity wearing a pirate hat. Nuton's eyes were wide with wonder. Lola's mouth curved into a small, amazed smile. "This whale," Lola whispered, "is dreaming." Wuity floated up gently, spinning like a happy planet. Nuton giggled. "Best adventure ever!" But then, in the distance, they saw a tiny flickering lantern light, and beside it, a small broken boat, and sitting on the boat, waving warmly, a wooden boy with a bright smile, and an old man with kind, crinkly eyes. "Is that?" Nuton breathed. "Pinocchio and Geppetto," Lola said softly. Wuity twinkled in agreement. It seemed their adventure was only just beginning. The bubble carrying Nuton, Lola, and Wuity floated closer and closer to the broken wooden boat resting inside the whale's glowing belly. Up close, the boat looked weathered but cozy, with a tiny flickering lantern swinging from its mast. On a little crate sat Pinocchio, carved wooden arms and legs, but eyes sparkling with real light. Beside him, Geppetto, the old toy maker, carefully patched a sail with pieces of stitched cloth. When they saw Nuton, Lola, and Wuity approach, Pinocchio hopped up and waved wildly. "Visitors!" Pinocchio chirped. "Real ones!" Geppetto chuckled warmly. "Come, friends, there's always room in our little home." The bubble popped softly around them as they landed on the boat. Everything smelled faintly of sweet cedarwood and sea salt dreams. Nuton looked around, wide-eyed. "Are you really Pinocchio?" Pinocchio nodded proudly, tapping his wooden chest. "And you're Geppetto, the toy maker," Lola added, her voice hushed in awe. Geppetto smiled kindly, his wrinkles deepening like happy rivers. "We are, but we've been living here a while now. Ever since," his voice grew softer, "we got swallowed up." As they sat around the tiny lantern, warm and glowing, Pinocchio began to tell his story. "I wasn't always like this," Pinocchio said, tapping his wooden chest. "Once I was just a piece of wood, a talking log really, until Geppetto, my papa, carved me into a boy." Geppetto chuckled, his eyes crinkling. And a lively boy he was. "I wanted to be real," Pinocchio said, his voice soft. "But I made a lot of mistakes. I told lies that made my nose grow long. I trusted the wrong people, and I even ran away from home." Nuton gasped a little. Wuity floated closer, blinking sadly. But every mistake taught me something, Pinocchio continued. About bravery, about kindness, about listening to those who love you. He smiled. And because of that, the blue fairy finally turned me into a real boy. Wuity spun in a happy little circle. Nuton grinned. "That's amazing!" But, Pinocchio added, our adventures didn't end there. He leaned closer, voice dropping to a whisper. "One day, Papa Geppetto and I went out to sea to find a lost treasure, something that could help our village. But a terrible storm came, and a great whale appeared, bigger than a castle." Lola's eyes grew round. "The whale swallowed us whole," Pinocchio said, sweeping his arms wide. "And we ended up here." Geppetto nodded, his face both sad and grateful. "It's been a peaceful place, full of dreams and wonders." Pinocchio pointed up at the shimmering stars overhead. "But lately the dreams have started to fade. The whale's heart, powered by wishes and kindness, is growing weak." Nuton squeezed Lola's hand. "What happens if the dreams disappear?" he whispered. Pinocchio's voice softened. "Then we'll all be trapped, and the dreams of many others might fade too." The little lantern between them flickered uncertainly, like a heartbeat pausing. Nuton sat up straighter, determination flashing in his eyes. "Then we'll save it," he said. Lola nodded firmly. "And we'll do it together." The little lantern wavered, its light curling like a sleepy sigh. Wuity floated up, blinking in concern. Nuton frowned. "How do we help? We have to help." Geppetto pointed toward the far end of the whale's belly, where a glittery mist swirled like a hidden doorway. "There are 3 dream keys hidden deep in the whale's heart," Geppetto said. "They guard the flow of wishes. Without them, the magic leaks away." Pinocchio bounced on his heels. "We tried finding them before, but it's tricky. You need brains, courage, and, well, a little sparkle." Nuton grinned. "Good thing we brought sparkle." He nudged Wuity, who blinked proudly. Lola straightened. "All right, let's find the dream keys." "Be careful," Geppetto warned. "The whale's magic will test you. It listens to your heart." "And," Pinocchio added, "some mischievous creatures live in here too." Nuton leaned forward, eyes shining. "This is going to be amazing." Lola sighed with a half smile. "Or exhausting." Either way, their adventure had truly begun. They packed tiny satchels, a little sandwich from Geppetto, a glow stick from Wuity, a tiny paper boat charm from Pinocchio, The mist at the end of the boat shimmered again, like a beckoning curtain. Hand in hand, Nuton, Lola, and Wuity stepped into the mist, ready to face the whale's secret world of dreams. Behind them, the tiny boat and its warm lantern light grew smaller and smaller, until it was just a comforting speck, urging them forward, toward the dream keys, toward saving the whale, toward saving all the wishes left to be dreamed. The little lantern on the sandy floor fluttered once, then twice. From its flame, a map bloomed, shimmering across the ground like spilled golden water. Tiny pictures wobbled into view: a crystal river, a thundering drum, and a swirling portal made of light. Pinocchio leaned in. The whale's dreams create places inside it, but its heart, where all dreams are born, is fading. Lola traced a glowing line with her fingertip. "We have to reach the heart of stars," she whispered. Nuton pumped his fists. "An adventure inside a whale! How cool is this?" Wuity spun excitedly, scattering tiny sparkle bubbles. Following the path, they reached a river, not of water, but of liquid glass, rippling with every sound they made. A sign popped up from nowhere. "Cross only with laughter. Sadness will sink you." Nuton bounced on his toes. "That's easy. I'm hilarious." He marched onto the crystal surface. Splash! Down he went, up to his knees in chilly sparkle water. "Oops!" Lola snorted. Wuity's floated closer and chirped like tiny bells. Pinocchio covered his mouth to keep from laughing too. Nuton made a face, puffing out his cheeks like a wobbly frog. Everyone burst into giggles. The river shivered, then smoothed under their feet, becoming solid as stone. Next, they reached a bridge made of giant floating drums. Each drum boomed a low note when touched. A riddle hovered above. "Step to the beat of kindness. Angry feet will fall." Nuton grinned. "I'll tap dance across." He stomped onto the first drum. Boom! He nearly flipped backward into the echoing canyon below. "Nuton!" Lola scolded, pulling him upright. Blushing, Nuton slowed down. He listened to the soft, steady beat of the whale's dream. Bum, bum, bum. Gentle steps, careful taps. Together, one kindness at a time, they crossed the bridge. Past the bridge was a floating garden, sprouting wild, impossible plants. Candy cane trees, floating feather bushes, flowers that giggled when brushed. At the center stood a giant empty frame on a vine wall. Above it shimmered the words, paint with your heart, not your hands. A single golden paintbrush floated nearby. Nuton bit his lip. I'm not the best artist. Lola rested a hand on his shoulder. Just draw what's in your heart. Nuton closed his eyes. He thought of happiness, of the thing make him smile, of trying, even when it was messy. He waved his hand. Swish. In the frame appeared a wild, silly masterpiece. A wobbly rainbow turtle wearing a pirate hat, riding a jelly bean. Lola and Wuity laughed in pure delight. The vines parted, opening the path forward. Finally, they stood before a huge door made of woven starlight, pulsing faintly like a sleeping heart. The door had no handle. Instead, tiny star letters appeared. Only those who believe in their own light may pass. Nuton looked at his hands. Small, a little clumsy, not magical, but full of trying, full of hope. He placed his palm against the stars. Lola did too. Wuity shimmered and blinked bravely. Pinocchio added his hand, wooden and warm. The door shivered, then swung open in a river of music. Inside was a swirling galaxy, a soft, endless sky where dreams began and were reborn. And in the center, pulsing faintly, was the whale's heart, a tiny, tired star, waiting. The whale's heart floated before them, a trembling star, tired and pale. Nuton stared at it, feeling a tug deep in his own chest. It's lonely, he whispered. Wuity floated up and blinked sadly, as if hearing the heart's tiny song. Lola bent close. It needs more than magic, she said softly. It needs a wish. Not the kind you make when you see a shooting star. Not the kind you whisper when you blow out birthday candles. A wish that comes from believing, not just wanting. Nuton squeezed his eyes shut. In his mind he wished, I wish for kindness to shine even in dark places. I wish for silly laughter to echo even inside a whale. I wish for dreams to always find their way home. He opened his eyes and placed his hand on the heart. The heart pulsed. Once, twice. Then it bloomed into a swirl of gold and silver stardust. The whale's belly filled with soft light, like a dawn inside an ocean dream. Wuity spun loops of joy in the glowing mist. Lola wiped her eyes. Pinocchio grinned. You did it! A portal bloomed ahead, shaped like a swirling conch shell. Through it, Nuton saw home. Hudson Valley, glowing under a gentle sunset. The starry whale sang, a low, lovely sound that tickled their toes. Pinocchio and Geppetto waved goodbye, their boat now floating on a river of stars inside the whale. "Will we meet again?" Nuton asked, a little catch in his voice. Pinocchio winked. "As long as you keep believing in good hearts and silly dreams, we're never far." Lola placed a hand on Nuton's shoulder. "Time to go home, little explorer." Hand in hand, with Wuity sparkling ahead like a baby comet, they stepped through the portal. Splash! They popped back onto their bubble submarine, which bobbed gently in a perfectly normal, sunny sea. The weird, starry whirlpool was gone. Only the gentle sound of seagulls filled the air. Nuton wiped his face and laughed, full and free. Wuity spun around him like a twinkling scarf. Lola stretched and looked up at the blue sky. "Maybe," she said, smiling sideways at Nuton, "we'll save the world again tomorrow." Nuton grinned. "Only after lunch." They floated peacefully, the warm sun on their faces, while deep below, a flash of sparkling light winked from the depths. A quiet thank you from the whale. And now, dear dreamer, as Nuton, Lola, and Wuity drifted home across gentle golden waves, as the magical whale glided far beneath in the starlit sea, and as Pinocchio and Geppetto sailed on their little boat inside dreams, remember, you are never too small to heal something big. Your kindness and creativity can make stars shine brighter. Every silly wish and every honest dream has a home inside the universe. Good night, little explorer. Sleep well, and let your dreams sail high and free, just like a whale in a sky of stars.